Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to the Hockey Writers Fantasy Forecheck podcast. As always, I am your host, Jacob Strozyk, joined by my incredible bearded co-host.
Jacob Billington, thank you. Appreciate that.
And today we're going to go through this week's fantasy trends, including players, teams, and anything else in between that we feel like talking about. But before we get started, we have our question of the week. Anybody who wants to play along with it, you feel free to put down your opinions on this question in the comments section. But for the intents purposes of this show, I'm going to be posing it to the other bearded man. Based on the start of the top 3 draft picks from this summer, who are you betting on long-term for your team? Rank them 1 to 3. And I have stats here if you want me to read them off to you.
Okay, I think I got their stats, at least in the right ballpark, but go ahead. Just read those out to me real quick.
So we got Bedard. He's got 5 goals, 2 assists in 11 games. He's -8, 34 shots on goal. That's the basic stat line.
Yeah.
Leo Carlsson, he's got 3 goals and 1 assist in 7 games. He's a +2, 14 shots on goal. And Fantilli has 2 goals, 4 assists in 11 games played. He's a -5 with 28 shots on goals. They're all pretty similar as far as pacing goes. Bedard has the slight edge.
Yeah, I mean, the easy one here is to go Bedard first. His ceiling is just astronomical. And despite that he's not off to like a super ridiculous start like some people thought he might, he's still got it in him. He's shown that he has a wicked shot and that he can use that at the NHL level. He's going to go through some growing pains, especially on a not so good Chicago team. Yeah, and he's going to get a boatload of shots as well. So he's easily number 1. Number 2, this is really tough. I'm going to go Adam Fantilli, and I'm going to give him the edge just based on physicality. I know that Leo Carlsson is also a pretty decent-sized human being, but I think they have similar offensive ceilings, but I do think that Fantilli is going to use his body more than Carlsson. But there's an argument for either one.
So you'd go Fantilli or Bedard, Fantilli, then Carlsson. So point-wise, offensively, what do you think ceiling mark is on each of them?
I could see Carlsson and Fantilli both hitting 70 points, no problem. I can even see them going higher than that, but I definitely think 70 points is realistic. I wouldn't be surprised to see either of them hit 90. Then with Bedard, I mean, who knows? Like, the NHL is trending up in terms of offense, and if Bedard can develop into even a shell of Connor McDavid, 140 points.
Okay. See, I have the same ranking, but my numbers I think are slightly different. So I would still do Bedard, Fantilli, and then Carlsson. Yeah. Bedard's ceiling, I understand the comparisons to McDavid, and even with the trend up, I still see him as just a 110-point player. I think that is more close to his ceiling. I'm not quite sure I have the confidence in him to hit that 140-point mark quite yet. Maybe 120 if you really stretch it, but I'd say 110 is my safer bet for him. Fantilli, I'd say, is more of an 80-point, and then Carlsson, I agree with you, as the 70-point. I think Fantilli just has that little slight edge in him, especially considering the weapons he's going to have around him for a while. I think are just slightly better than what Carlsson will have around him, and that'll kind of affect his point totals. But I agree with the ranking, just slightly different on the points.
Fair enough.
All right, let's jump into it then. Let's go to, you want to do the uptrend or the downtrend first?
Let's start positive.
Positive as always. Uptrend. You got somebody that's you're itching to talk about?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Ilya Mikheyev.
Okay.
I'm going to pull up his stats here real quick. But since coming back to the Canucks lineup, I mean, the Canucks have been a wagon so far this year. They're off to a fantastic start, and anybody on that team, like, people are even picking up Tyler Myers in their leagues. And if you would have told me that 6 months ago, 3 months ago, I'd have been like, that's ridiculous. But people are picking him up. Whatever. So far, Ilya Mikheyev has 3 goals, 6 points. Does not have a hit or a block, though, which is, you want a little bit of that from somebody, but he's only played what, 6, 7 games? Yeah, 7 games. So through that, 6 points so far. If he's on waivers in most leagues. He's only rostered at 17% on Yahoo.
Mhm.
He's definitely worth picking up. He's going to get you lots of shots. He's already got a 4 and a 6 shot game. So
Yeah, I don't agree with that assessment. I agree. I don't like the lack of blocks and hits, but at the same time, if you're getting offensive production, you don't have to get the other ones. It's just kind of a bonus if you're getting those little bit of extra pointage. But no, you're right. Canucks are definitely one of the upswing positive teams. We've talked about them for the past couple weeks, so that's not a secret. I love the comment about Tyler Myers though, because I was sorting through different waiver pickups throughout the day today, and I came across Myers on the positive uptrend twice, and I'm just like, what?
yeah,
Wait a second. And the stats actually don't look that bad for someone who's averaging about, I think it was like 18 and a half minutes a night
yeah.
for a defenseman. That's it's not bad. If you're in a deeper league, that's someone who can maybe provide you a little bit of value. So I just enjoyed the Myers comment more than anything. I'll jump into my first one. I'm gonna hop right into somebody I've been paying attention to for a little while now, and that's Sean Monahan for the Montreal Canadiens. He is thriving in his role, and it is an absolute highway robbery that they were given a first round pick to take him on, and he is just flourishing. And I think he's very happy to be out of Calgary considering the situation
Yeah.
going on there at the moment. But he's got 5 points in 5 games. He's on a solid little point streak, and I am loving his faceoff percentage as well. It's a little over 50%. So I think Monahan is rostered at about, I think it was like 40%. Let me double check it. Because again, ESPN is never correct. So I'm going to go to the Yahoo one again.
Yeah, Yahoo's, in my opinion, the much better fantasy app.
34%.
34, like that's ridiculous. He should be much higher than that. I agree though. Like there's some really good wingers on Montreal. Cole Caulfield, obviously. And I haven't been following their line combinations very much. But it doesn't matter who he's playing with. He's doing well. He is arguably their best center. I know Suzuki's off to a bit of a slow start to the season. So if he can kind of climb his way into that true top 6 role and really prove that he can stick around, then he's going to develop some fantastic chemistry with those wingers, whether it's going to be Slavkovsky or Caulfield or whoever else ends up on his wing. It's awesome. And I'm really happy to see that for him. I really like Sean Monahan. And I really thought that when he got traded, his career was kind of dwindling down. But yeah, I love the resurgence.
Yeah, it's nice to see that it wasn't actually him that was the problem. It was Calgary that was really the problem.
Shocker.
Because as soon as he got out of there, it seems like he got himself a coach that he likes, he got himself a system that he likes, and he's producing like he normally would be. And as a Buffalo fan, I am fully aware of what it's like to see a star player just get destroyed by a terrible coach. Cough Ralph Kruger, cough Jeff Skinner. So I understand it, and as someone who also likes Sean Monahan, I love to see the uptrend. Roll me into your next one.
I didn't have a look at your list. I'd be surprised if he's not on here, I will admit. But I got Mason McTavish. Now, he is very high percent rostered on Yahoo, at least. He's at 78 right now. So I was a little bit skeptical to throw him into this list just because it's not going to be easy to get your hands on him. But if you can, you absolutely must. He's got 13 points so far. He's got 6 goals, 7 assists. He likes to shoot a lot. He's got almost 30 shots already. He's not playing a super physical game like some might have expected, but I do believe that with McTavish, that's going to come as he develops.
Yeah, I didn't put him on the list for 2 reasons. One, I thought the roster rate was a little bit too high to consider him as like a waiver claim. I figured he'd be more of a trade candidate. And considering how good he is trending, I figured we would just end up talking about him regardless. So I didn't put him on a list as a specific like target, gotta pick this guy up, because if you haven't figured it out over the past, I think we even talked about him last week. So if you haven't figured it out in that span of time, then you're missing out. And if he is still on your waiver wire, for the love of God, jump on it and pick him up, because he's just trending so far up, especially considering how poor Zegras is playing. McTavish is going to pick up that slack, and I am loving how his development is turning out. Loving it.
Well,
loving it.
When he was getting drafted, I remember following the Senators at that draft, and I was really hoping that he might slide to 10. And at the time, it was like he might go like 7, 8, or 9, and I was kind of hoping that he would drop to 10. And then he goes 3rd overall, and everybody was like, "Whoa, what's going on here?" And I'm like, "That's a really good pick, because I know McTavish is going to be fantastic."
Yeah, I had an expectation of him to go as high as 5. I didn't think he was going to go at 3 either. But as soon as the pick got made, I just went, kind of wish he dropped, but okay.
It's all good though. Ottawa got Tyler Boucher.
You gotta take the ups with the downs, eh? You can't win them all.
Yeah.
All right. My next one, I'll go into my Buffalo player just because I noticed he's on a little bit of a point streak. JJ Peterka. You're not going to get a lot of physicality out of him, but he is on a 5-game point streak, and he has 6 points on that streak. So if you need a little bit of depth scoring, he's not rostered at a high rate whatsoever. It was right around 10%. So he's somebody you can absolutely just pick up, throw into the depth portions of your roster. I believe he's listed as both wings. If he's not, he's definitely at least a left wing.
Yep.
So you can slot him wherever you need him. And, Buffalo might not be trending super high up, but he's still producing either way.
Yeah, I like Peterka. Again, I'm going to take this back to the Senators. He was supposed to be a Senator. Ottawa took Roby Järventie, who he's looking fine so far. But good friends with Tim Stützle, played on the same team. He went like a couple picks after Roby Järventie was picked by the Senators. I was really banking on him being in Ottawa as well. But no, I really like his play. I'm cheering for the guy too. And he's off to a good start to the season. So all the best to him.
Yeah, I for one, am glad to see it as somebody who was really banking on him to be a bounce back and breakout candidate, because he was a rookie last year. You can't bounce back from a rookie season. Sorry, wrong terminology. You got anybody else?
Yeah, I'll jump into my next one, and I'm hesitant to throw him on the list because he's a pure C. Don't really like suggesting to pick up a pure C just because it's always difficult to get them thrown in the lineup. But have to say Marco Rossi. He's off to a really good start to the season, which is awesome because things weren't looking so good up until now. Taking an extra few years to flourish, and here he is. He's got 7 points so far, 5 goals. Takes a lot of shots too. He's right around that 30 mark again. And he's got 7 blocks. He's good on the defensive side for a young forward. You don't usually see around a block a game.
Yeah, I like Rossi. He's from the same Peterka draft because he went 1 pick after Jack Quinn.
Yeah.
And I remember being up in arms about it, being like, why would you pick Jack Quinn and not Marco Rossi? What the hell is wrong with you? But, we're seeing the end results being pretty similar as far as production between the two. Yeah. So that is what it is.
I didn't like the Jack Quinn pick at the time either, if I'm going to be completely honest.
I like it now.
Yes. Looks like a good pick now.
I like it now. We needed centers at the time, and now we need wingers. So I like the fact that we have a scoring winger. He's hurt, but watch out when he comes back. He's going to be a bit of a sleeper fantasy pick, if you ask me, because I think he's going to get slotted right in the top 6. But he's not due back until probably late December. So there's still time. All right, I'll jump in. You mentioned you don't like doing pure C, so I'll do a center left winger. Because he's not really playing a lot of center this year because there's not really any space for him. I got Quinton Byfield. He is on a fantastic little mini tear here. He's got 6 points in his last 3 games. He looks like he's getting his rhythm. He's finally letting the points come. He's playing in a good top 6 role. He's getting the shots off, and he's producing. It is finally nice to see this kid producing because he's worked so hard over the past couple of years to just get to the point where he needs to be. And as someone who was a big fan of his play style and really hoping to see him just jump up with his scoring this year, it's nice to see he finally is going to hit some of those marks and probably be a 60-point player if he keeps it up.
Yeah, and you know what? Honestly, I think he'll be higher than 60 points. I think he'll flirt with 75. I'm a huge fan of Byfield. Again, I guess this is the draft edition of Fantasy Forecheck.
I guess
But
so.
Ottawa ended up with Stutzel. Couldn't be more happier about that. But I've always cheered for Byfield. I think he's fantastic. I think he has so much skill, and you got to remember that he was one of the youngest players in that draft class. I think he was the youngest, and so he's kind of like almost a full year behind some of these guys from that draft. He's finally coming into his own. He's playing the top left wing on the Kings roster, and he's doing fantastic. Like you said, 6 points in his last 3 games. He's up to 10 points in 11 games this season. Not much else to say. I think when he develops, kind of like the same as McTavish, he's going to be able to play that physical role too, just with his size. But he's got so much skill. I don't know if he's going to lean into that. So it'll be interesting to see how he continues to develop.
Even if he doesn't develop into the more physical and throw hits with his size, I'd be shocked to see that he wouldn't be deployed in maybe a two-way role or maybe used for the penalty kill, kind of like Tage Thompson is getting used by Don Granato this year, because he's got that long reach. So he might get a couple extra blocks here and there. So maybe not hits, but I would see blocks in the future.
He was my last one as well. So
okay, well, I only got one more, and I'm going to go right to Cam Talbot, just to throw a goaltender in there. He's winning games. He's winning games, and he's got decent stats right now. So it's nothing that you need to dive into huge analytically, but he's not rostered at a super high rate. So you still might be able to get a pickup in some leagues. It might be tougher in a league in deeper Yahoo leagues just because of how positioning go and how category leagues get played. But if you're in a points league, I think you'd have a better shot at picking Talbot up, or maybe getting a cheap trade-off for him if you need a goaltender to kind of bring in some extra points with wins.
yeah, and that's about all he's getting. I don't have his stats up in front of me, but
They're not incredible, but they're good.
Yeah, like they're not great. He's not gonna really blow your stats out of the water with his save percentage and his GAA, but he's getting the wins, and that's the most important thing for a goaltender. Look at like Martin Jones last year. He was great for fantasy because he got so many wins. He had terrible like individual stats, but he got the wins, and that's kind of what Talbot's going to be this year.
Bringing up Martin Jones is like swearing to me on this show. Martin Jones is a menace to fantasy hockey, and I will never let that point go for as long as I live, because no goaltender who has a 3.0 goals against and an 880 save percentage should be rostered as high as he is, but I'll be darned if the man doesn't win games.
Yeah. I don't know how he does it. He must give all the players something before they get onto the ice.
I don't know what it is, but it's an absolute travesty that it continues to work year after year.
Yeah.
I refuse to put him in the highlights right now. That reason alone. All right. Just to kind of dip into, while we're in the uptrend, just a couple of quick teams that I feel like you should buy on. For me, first team is Boston. Boston's still just trending up. The goaltending is still as good as last year. I was a bit skeptical that they would be able to keep, their goals against as low as they have, but both Swayman and Allmark are rocking sub 2 goals against averages. Yeah. So if by some way you can buy on both of those, absolutely do one or the other, because they still split the games pretty evenly.
Yeah.
Beyond that, Boston players in general, Zacha was another good pickup for this week. I think we talked about him last week, but he's still continuing to trend up. So, in my opinion, Boston is a buy team, and then the other one is the Ducks. Decent goaltending out of Dostal. Gibson, not so much. So, if Dostal is still on your waiver wire, might be a little tough again with the goaltending situations in some leagues, but if he's there, grab him, or you could possibly even buy low if people don't have faith in the Ducks, which I think there are still some. And we already talked about McTavish. We talked about how Zegras is on a bit of a downswing. We talked about Strome last week. So there's a lot of positive trends for both Boston and the Ducks. I'd buy players for both.
Yeah, and I'll throw the New Jersey Devils in there too. We talked about this so much I don't even have to really say anything.
Mhm.
Like over the summer, it was all just if he's on the Devils, pick him up. If he's on the Devils, pick him up. And now with Jack Hughes out, I think that there's more room for offense on that team. There's going to be less being generated up the middle, but there's more room for other players to collect those points because even without Jack Hughes, the New Jersey Devils are fantastic.
In a related note, I literally just made a trade yesterday for Timo Meyer in my other league, not our Hockey Writers League, but in my other league that I'm in, and I could not be happier with the result. All it really cost me was Elias Lindholm and a low pick, so I'm a very happy man. There was a couple of other players sprinkled in to kind of even out the deal,
Yeah.
but it wasn't anybody like groundbreaking.
Wow.
So I'm a happy man that I
I
got to
take that
buy
deal
on a Devils
10
player
times at a time.
finally.
Yeah, I take that deal every time.
I'm a very happy man with that result. So that just being a quick thing. As far as downtrend goes, anybody standing out above the rest?
I mean, there's not a ton. There's a lot of players that are struggling that we've already talked about, like Dominic Kubalik, but he's got 2 goals now, which is something. Let me hear one of yours first, and then come back to me.
Yeah, one that kind of stood out to me was Matty Beniers. He only has 4 points in 12 games, and they're all assists. He's also a minus 13, so his normal good two-way possession play is kind of off the radar at the moment. He's not throwing hits. He's not getting a whole lot of shots. So he's not really doing a whole lot as far as fantasy is concerned right now. Granted, neither is a decent portion of the Seattle roster as a whole, but Beniers is someone you would have expected to kind of jump in, hit the ground running, really build off of that Calder season that he had last year. And it's a little disappointing to see that he's not living up to it at this point.
Yeah, and like Beniers has so much talent, and I don't really know
Mm-hmm.
what's going on. Seattle as a whole is struggling. They've been doing better as of late, but still not much better. Um, it's really interesting to see that it worked so well last year for them to run all 4 lines and have so much success. And they have relatively the same team, and now it's just not working. So I don't know what it's like. Is it the coaching? Do they need to make a change? They just gave Dave Hackstall a 3-year extension. Do they need that true superstar this year? I don't know what it is.
Well, I would make the point, as I always have, that Hackstall is just not a very good coach. He usually has 1 or 2 good years, and then he just disappears behind the bench. And then, as a mildly comical but also semi-serious note, they don't have Daniel Sprong on their fourth line to throw up 20 goals this season, which people will jeer at it, but that can make a difference.
Huge difference. That's such an insane difference.
But instead, he's going to do it for Detroit this year, which is why Detroit might be trending up. They've been doing better this year.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say it, but maybe. Anybody on your mind after that pick, or I have my other 2 if you don't?
I got one that really contradicts myself. So I
Okay.
just said pick up anybody on the Devils unless it's Ondrej Palat. I'm
Okay.
not liking what I'm seeing from Palat. It's not playoff season, so he's not doing his thing. He's fantastic in the playoffs, but fantasy doesn't carry into playoffs, so that doesn't really matter. But he's only got 3 points so far, all assists. He does like to throw hits, which is always good if you need it. But yeah, like he's down to the third line now. There's not really much else to say. He's just not doing anything.
Yeah, I think there was a little bit of an uptrend on Palat when the season started because I think he had a couple of quick goals and he was throwing those peripherals around a little bit extra, and people just had high confidence in the Devils that, if he's producing now, he's going to keep producing.
Yeah.
But you're right. He kind of just downtrended and just started disappearing quicker and quicker. And now he's losing his spot in that top 6. So, no, I absolutely agree. Definitely a downtrend. Would you drop or just bench?
I would drop at this point. He's already getting up there. He already isn't fantastic in the regular season. Again, he's an incredible player in the playoffs. I'd love to have him on any team I cheer for, but for fantasy, I'm going to drop him.
I agree. I'm at 100% drop. I just want to make sure we're on the same page.
Yeah.
Next one for me is Pavel Buchnevich, somebody that I kind of was high on at the start of the year and all throughout the summer because he's capable of more. But right now, he's just not doing it. He has 3 points in 8 games. Granted, St. Louis isn't doing fantastic either, but they were kind of hot to start the year. You figured he'd be a part of that little mini hot streak that they had. But no, he was basically contributing nothing to it, and he's still contributing basically nothing now. I don't know if he's a drop candidate, but he's someone that you might want to look to trade and or bench at this point.
Yeah. I'm not like, yeah, you might want to trade him. I don't know if you want to drop him. But he's got so much potential. It's hard to sell so low on him. Like he could throw up 65 points this year and I wouldn't be shocked, even on a struggling Blues team. Yeah, like he has it in him. He just needs to get going.
Yeah. Like I said, he has that potential. He's capable of more. It's just disappointing to see the downtrend comparative to what he normally can do and would do. You got any others? Because I only got one more.
No, that's all I had.
All right. The last one for me, Val Nichushkin on Colorado. He's normally a solid fantasy producer because he has a little bit of physicality to him, and he's normally good for about 25 goals-ish. So he has that offensive ability in him, and he's normally floating around the top 6 somewhere, whether it be in the top line due to injury or if he's just rocking the second line where he kind of flourishes. But right now, he's not doing much. He's got 0 points in his last 4 games. He's got a little bit of a reduction in his ice time. He's only averaging about 15 minutes, where his career is closer to 17. So he's got a bit of a downtick there. Granted, Colorado just got spanked the other night, so that's probably not helping the confidence. So I wouldn't say Colorado is a downtrend team. I think they just hit a small dry spell and everything will just even out and be okay with them. But for Nichushkin, he's a bench possible drop if you can get somebody better.
Yeah, I don't know if I would even consider dropping him. I think he's going to get it back, especially on that Avalanche team that we know can be just incredibly good. And I do actually have another one as soon as you mentioned Colorado. Okay. So I'll get to that in a minute. But no, like Nichushkin, I'm a huge fan, and I do think that he's going to find his way back. Part of the issue might be that one of the centers on that team, Ryan Johansen, is not doing very good, and that's who my kind of drop candidate is right now. He wasn't really highly praised coming into the season. He was just given away at 50% retained, but I do think that there was a lot of kind of hope. I was kind of a little bit high on him. I thought that he might be a good late round steal, but he's got 5 points so far on the season, and all 5 of those came in 1 3-game span. He's been pointless ever since. So it's just not there, and I think I would drop Johansen.
Yeah, Johansen, the only stat that he had that was kind of evened out with the rest of everything else was his shots. He's got almost 30 shots. That's really the only stat that's promising, is the fact that he is shooting the puck a lot. It's just not going in. He's got 4 goals, and that's 4 out of his 5 points. So if you need goals, maybe a low pick, but me personally, I already dropped him and I picked up Byfield this week. So
and you dropped him. You picked him up after I dropped him, or maybe different league. I don't know, but I dropped him earlier in the season already.
Yeah, but sometimes that's just the way it flows. You gotta know when to drop him, know when to pick somebody up. But that's exactly how the trend played out as far as who we picked this week.
Yeah.
And then as far as teams go, I didn't want to single anybody out. The bottom half of the Atlantic is miserable right now, or not the Atlantic, the Pacific.
Yeah.
The bottom half of the Pacific Division is just dog water. San Jose is just in absolute purgatory right now, and I feel so bad for them.
Yeah.
It's not good. Don't pick up on San Jose. Don't pick up Calgary. Maybe a little bit on Seattle, but not even that much. Edmonton is not fantastic as far as their goaltending and defense goes. They're scoring, so if you pick up some scoring players from Edmonton, that's really about it. But anything else that isn't named McDavid, Draisaitl, or anybody in their top 6, don't bother. It's not worth it. Their bottom 6 isn't scoring.
And even then, some of the top 6 isn't. Like Nugent Hopkins is off to a slow start by the standard he set for himself. Evander Kane's not playing very well. Like it's Zach Hyman is doing good, which is great because I drafted him on my 11 out of 10 team that is currently ranked 11th in our league, or 14th, I think. Something
You do a
really
standings
bad.
update at the end.
Yeah, something really bad. But I'm coming back for the championship, so letting
It's
everybody
completely possible. It is 100% possible. I went from last to 5th last year. You can do it. I believe in you. Granted, that's coming from me, who's currently sitting in 3rd, but that's
I'm
irrelevant.
pulling off the St. Louis Blues strategy here.
Oh, I like it. So it was a deliberate tanking. You're just gonna go up in the second half. That's the plan. Go for the hero story.
Well, one of my biggest issues so far, like to be real for a second, has been my goaltending. So I have Ilya Sorokin, and it's been a blender for my backup. Right now I've got Casey DeSmith, but we're in an 18-person league. So that's not enough for everybody to have 2 goalies. But
Tough.
I've got Vasilevsky on my IR. So I took that risk and I went with like, all right, I know it's going to be rough for the first 2 months of the season. But once he's back, my goaltending will not be poor anymore.
Yeah, my backup goaltending situation is garbage considering it's Stuart Skinner and Jack Campbell. However, I'm balancing it out with the awesome, incredible play of Aiden Hill. So I am still getting a little bit on my goaltending category. So no complaints there.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else you want to bring up? Anything else you want to chat about before we wrap it up?
No, I think that's all I got for today.
All right. Well, then thank you again, everybody, for tuning in to this week's episode of Fantasy Forecheck. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on your preferred listening channel, whether that be Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere else that you can find your podcast, and to the Hockey Writers podcast as well, and YouTube pages where you can find anything and everything else hockey related. You can always follow me on Twitter at Stro67.
And I'm there at Jacob Billington.
You can feel free to drop us a like, leave a comment. We will keep you up to date on all things fantasy throughout the year. Thanks again, everybody, for watching, and we'll see you next time.